It's a different take on a Christmas song because it's a devotional piece, which, whether you believe or not, leads to sort of a sense of spirituality, which is a
Mhm.
different aspect of Christmas. And so
Sure.
I sort of picked this as a kind of contemplative track to listen to instead of maybe, Slade or something like that. It's a different take.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles, and happy holidays to everybody out there. As you probably guessed, if you tuned into yesterday's Ockerville River episode, you know that this is a week devoted to our holiday themed tracks. And today, John is going to be offering up one for me to go off and listen to, and I will endeavor to do just that, and then we'll come back and discuss it at length. So John, happy holidays, my friend. What have you have in the chamber?
Well, we've got a different kind of track for your Christmas listening pleasure.
Okay.
This is by a band called Popol Vuh.
Yeah, nothing. Probably comes as no surprise to you.
So the
What's the
track is called Hosianna-Mantra.
oh, Hosianna-Mantra. Okay. All right. Well, let me go off and give this thing a spin, and I will come back and let you know what my thoughts are. Like piano and harpsichord. Something oddly reminiscent about what those two instruments are doing together right now that is akin to what a perfect circle does in this song called A Stranger on the album 13th Step, which we've covered on this channel before. I can't imagine that this inspired that, but it is odd that certain portions and note flourishes in here are really reminiscent of what the guitar does in that track, which is I didn't have that on my bingo card when I came in and pressed play on this one, but let's take it back a little bit. This is really beautiful. So I caught her, I think she said Hosianna right there, and my God, this woman's voice is haunting and airy. and it balances this sort of idea of like gentle tenderness with an immense amount of control, and all of that sort of mixes together in this cocktail that generates a lovely sound. Totally. It's like the keys just gently stabbing underneath all of this guitar chicanery. Damn. Get behind. Mm. Is that a flute? It's crazy because like her register has gone up so high that it's like bordered on sounding like a woodwind instrument. But I think this is the real McCoy that we're hearing now. Fuck me, I don't really know what to say other than this is all really pretty. Um, between her and what I think is a woodwind instrument having this haunting effect and the almost like tempest in a teapot kind of sound the guitar is making. Like it's moving, but it's not bombastic in its fervent movements. It's all kind of confined or sort of sequestered. It's not exploding everywhere. And the keys are like the closest thing we're getting to like percussions in this track, um, rather than like your traditional drums and so forth. Yeah, it's really really pretty. It's almost it's close to to mesmerizing, but there's just enough things changing to keep you from truly falling into a trance. Mm, interesting shit here. She really has, there is this laciness to her voice where it's just, it's soft and gentle, um, and soothing. And it just, I don't know, there's an intoxicating beauty about her delivery and the control. Like she's got all of this, there's this breathy, gentle, almost fragile nature to her voice, but behind it is this like command of it. It's really, really impressive. Also, for what it's worth, we are like well over halfway through this, and I'm getting really, kind of subdued by the beauty of this music. But what does this have to do with Christmas? Like, I don't know if I'm missing something here. I'm not catching a lot of what she's saying. I think I've only heard Hosianna of all the things she said. So maybe in there is some morsel or crumb that leads us back to the Yuletide spirit, but I don't know. I mean, it's beautiful, and I guess there's room at Christmas for beautiful music, but I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, I didn't expect John to give me jingle bells or anything, but this is not exactly what I would describe as a Christmas song. But I'm hoping that he's got information on the other side of this that will kind of add insight into this that I'm clearly missing. Regardless of what time of the year you're listening to the song, it's really good. I think we can all agree on that, or at least most of us can. interesting. The guitar is kind of pulled back and it's taken on a slightly different sound here. Hmm. Oh, pull that back. I'm not sure exactly when that happened. I just sort of realized it. It sounds like more reedy instrument there that sort of takes over the main character role of the song in this portion. And I don't know what it is about that instrument or the sound that it evokes in me this thought of, again, not Christmas here, but of like springtime, like greenery bursting through the earth and unfolding and animals coming back out and commingling. That's what that sound reminds me of. Eh, we shall see. Hmm. Mm. That was beautiful. That ending was really interesting. The space between the notes was expanded, and it was almost like, which does suggest like the winding down of the song. But there was something about it that kind of reminded me of like those last couple tosses and turns and adjustments of the pillow and pulling up of the blanket before you finally, before sleep finally finds you. Um, Interesting stuff. This is a really, really pretty, very pretty song. And all of its components were pretty and thus work together to create this sort of, uh, you know, Megatron of beauty, each part building on the other. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. Her voice was gorgeous, and that reedy instrument that appeared throughout at different points was almost nearly as beautiful. and they kind of sounded akin to one another. I mean, the guitar player was obviously showing off their chops throughout this one as well. It sounded lovely, and I loved the interplay of like, and the role that it played of like the piano and whatever that more harpsichordy sounding instrument was. All of it was just really gorgeous. Not in a clue what this has to do with Christmas, but I'm sure John does, or can at least tell me why it speaks Christmas to him. That's the only part that's confusing. Why he likes this song is not confusing at all to me. This is a wholly gorgeous tune. But to learn about what I don't understand, I'm going to need to go back and talk to the man himself. So let's do just that.
The Phantom Raspberry Blower of Old London Town. He's back. So you've had a listen to Hosianna-Mantra by Popol Vuh. What do you make of it?
Well, you're gonna have to help me with that. At least as far as one facet, very integral facet of this specific reaction, and the week that it's devoted to. So I'm hoping you can provide some clarity there. But overall, as a song, I've got some thoughts. The song begins somewhat ominously as we get a chord on some keyed instrument before the notes of what sounds like a harpsichord or something akin to it join the mix, stretching out for a bit there. And these two sounds play off each other. Oddly, in this moment, I'm reminded, like early on here in the first, I don't know, 30 seconds or so, I'm actually reminded of a track off an album that we've listened to and featured on this channel, I think a couple times. But it's a Perfect Circles album, 13th Step. And the track from it that this reminds me of is a track called A Stranger. So if you get a chance, go back and give that a listen and tell me if you pick up or can hear the similar, because what the harpsichord is doing in this track at times, or whatever that thing is that sounds like a harpsichord. Oh, hello, pup. Reminds me of the guitar from A Stranger in that A Perfect Circle album. So,
Not you, him.
of course. So shortly after the 1 minute mark, and through the faint haze of more like key tickling, there appears some really rich sounding electric guitar notes that bend and wind through the soundscape. They shortly thereafter are joined by this beautiful and haunting female voice, though I catch very little, if anything, of what she is singing. I think at one time I hear her say Hosianna, well, maybe a couple times throughout the song, but that's the one word that really jumps out at me. So I've pretty much given up. I'm just enjoying the airy, delicate beauty of her voice, which is just astounding. The guitar continues to noodle away as the keys almost act percussively, and they accentuate its motif, the guitars. Uh, Throughout the next couple of minutes, the singer and the guitar work continue to inch higher up as their respective on their respective scales, both so high and airy, whilst both also remaining surgically controlled. Sometimes when something stretches its limits, you can hear it almost fraying or getting to that point of break. I didn't catch that here at all. At around the 440 mark, I do catch what I believe to be the first introduction of, I think, a flute or some other reedy instrument joining the mix with these slightly elongated notes that stretch out and ascend for a few notes before resolving on one lone descending note. So it's like moving up and then coming to a final resting spot. And it's almost like a feather being lifted by a calm wind and then settling on some slightly elevated kind of surface. Um, Lovely, beautiful stuff. I continue to have nary a clue of what this woman is singing, but her voice is just flawlessly washing over the music, and might as well be that calming wind that I used in that half-ass simile a moment ago. Her voice has this intricate laciness to it, not laziness, laciness, that conveys this appropriate amount of emotion without being overly powerful. I do have to stop and acknowledge that at this point in my listening experience, well over halfway through the song and drunk from its intoxicating beauty, I have a sober moment of realization, and that is I'm catching fucking nothing to do with Christmas throughout this track. I'm waiting for. I was like, oh shit, that's right. That's the purpose of me listening to this. It's in some way supposed to connote the holiday season. So perhaps at the end of my spiel here, you can add context. But in this moment, I just kind of hit with this epiphany that I have no idea why I'm listening to this, other than it's just a really great song. Um, I believe it's around the 7:35 mark where the lead guitar work reins itself in for a moment and the music opens up slightly and more woodwind comes into focus. And instantly, I'm imagining not Christmas, but something subsequent to Christmas, and that is the onset of spring. There's this feeling, I don't know if it's the sound of woodwinds connotes like things coming to life or blossoming. But for some reason, I am thinking of foliage bursting through the earth and petals unfurling on flowers. So it's just interesting, but that's where it took me. Of course, you can only keep the lead guitar in the corner for so long, and it begins to noodle away beneath the sounds of April and May exploding onto the scene. Again, there is another shift in the musical aesthetic around the 9:30 mark as the vocals and guitar hush and that harpsichord like and piano like sound come into the foreground again, but they do so in a very reserved and measured way. It's as if they are acting as the last kind of like shift of the pillow or toss over on the other side and adjusting of the blanket before you finally come to a final resting position for a long slumber. Uh, and there you have it. The end of a beautiful song that moved with all the elegance and grace of a swan gliding over the surface of water or the limbs of a willow in a breeze. Um, so please tell me more. And for the love of God, please explain to me how this song ties into a Christmas theme of any sort, which is what we've devoted this week to, John. I'm highly interested.
Thanks for listening to this, Andy. To tell you the truth, I have been looking for an excuse to get some of this band's work into the channel. And so I picked this. Um, it's a different take on a Christmas song because it's a devotional piece, which, whether you believe or not, leads to sort of a sense of spirituality, which is a different aspect of Christmas. And so
Sure.
I sort of picked this as a kind of contemplative tracks to listen to instead of maybe Slade or something like that. It's a different take. So
I think I said in the reaction, like I wasn't expecting John to give me jingle bells, but what am I listening to right now? So,
but
but
it's
yes,
some,
with that added bit of context and the spirituality, which is for you and I something we rarely focus on, even when we do this week every year. But it remains that is a large part of how a vast part of the population kind of connects with Christmas. It is a religious holiday after all. So.
yeah, and I think the nice thing about this is because it's quite obtuse, particularly the lyrics, you can then project whatever spirituality you want onto it, whatever
Sure.
it be. Which is a nice sort of, one size fits all for a lot of people, hopefully. So yeah, and I think it's something a bit different as well.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Popol Vuh were a German musical collective, keyword, founded in 1969 in Munich by keyboardist Florian Fricker. They're described as krautrock, ambient, world music, psychedelia, new age, and electronic. So the band took their name from the Mayan manuscript of the same name, containing the mythology of the highland Guatemala's Quichua people. And the name Popol Vuh translates kind of as Book of the Community or Book of Council. And it contains all their mythology and everything. And it was kept verbally for a couple of thousand years before it was then written down in the 1500s, I believe. And he came across it in a library in Munich when he was at university. He thought, that's cool, that'll do for me. Whatever the German equivalent of that is. Oh, that's fucking good. Anyway,
That's
Popol
cool.
Vuh then began as an electronic musical project. But under Frecker's leadership, they sort of abandoned synthesizers for organic instrumentation and world music influences. They're really, really influential band that you never heard of. Um, they developed a productive working partnership with director and full-time madman Werner Herzog, contributing to scores such as Gira, The Wrath of God in 72, Nosferatu, The Vampire in 79, and Fitzcarraldo, absolute maniac of the film, in 82. So they are associated with, as I said, krautrock as well. So their first album, Affenstunde, was released in 1970 and can be regarded as one of the earliest space music works. It
Hmm.
featured the then, and there's a debate on this, whether it is the first ever use of the Moog synthesizer. Um, but he had one of the first ever Moogs that was available. And they mixed it with ethnic percussion. This continued to the next album, In Den Garten Pharos, which really is beautiful, contemplative, almost like philosophical album. And then they went off into some other stuff before he then abandoned electronic instruments in favor of the piano-led compositions from this album, Hosianna-Mantra, going forwards. So this album is a title track. This is from this album. It's the third album by them. It was released in 72. As I say, he employed, rather than the synths, piano, oboe, and tambura. So, personnel: Florian Fricker on piano, cembalo, which is also known as harpsichord, Connie Veit, electric guitar, 12-string guitar, Robert Eliscu, oboe, John Young, vocals, and Klaus Weiser, tambura, and Fritz Sonnleitner on violin. Yeah, John Young's interesting. I don't know how they managed to bump across each other, but she is a Korean opera singer.
Mm.
So yeah, you've got these German cats laying down this
Right.
stuff, and a Korean opera singer singing over the top. It's really, really super interesting. All music said the epic title track adds another dimension to the fusion, emphasizing a Western rock sound with Veit's spectacular playing to the fore, simultaneously smoldering and liquid. I think liquid's a really good description of the guitar. It really is.
Yeah.
Occasionally yielding to John Young's celestial vocals. Above all, Fricker envisioned this as sacred music, intimately linked to religious experience. However, as his musical synthesis of disparate religious traditions indicates, he was seeking to foment a spiritual experience beyond the specificity of any particular faith. Indeed, Fricker called this album a mass for the heart. Julian Cope, the channel and a crap rock expert, has said that Hosianna-Mantra sounds like it was made in a cosmic convalescent home. An excellent description underscoring the timelessness, healing quality of music, which is far removed from the everyday world and yet at one with it. And Sputnik Music said, all the tracks are so well pieced together, designed to create a warm, eerie atmosphere, and in the end, to induce a listener into a mantra. No doubt the title track is meant to be the centerpiece, building an endless circular movement comprised of piano, delayed guitar, oboe, and dreamy vocals. The free guitar licks successfully create the tantric atmosphere over the low piano rhythm, at one point beautifully intertwining with the vocals and the oboe. Words are hard to express the sheer magnificence of the nature of Hosianna-Mantra. And speaking of words, the lyrics, there's not a lot. Hosianna, Hosianna, zum son Davids, Hosianna, Hosianna, zum son Davids. Amen, and David's son. Amen, und David's son. Hosianna, 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 Hosianna. Amen, 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 Hosianna, Amen, Hosianna, Amen, Hosianna, Amen, There you go.
Cleared that right up for me.
Yeah, in 1973, Connie Veit elaborated on the spiritual component of the group's music. He said, I refrain from the classification church music, although I think it is entirely possible and appropriate that Hosianna-Mantra be used as music for church. I realized this record was actually about something else for me. With the means at my disposal, I wanted to grasp the original Christian being and feeling in order to convey the correctness of elementary truths in the Christian word, not as a preacher, but as someone for whom archaic ways of life seem more valuable and right than our own contemporary culture. That doesn't really mean anything, but it's nice. It's nice. So there you go.
Yeah.
Popol Vuh influenced many other European bands with their uniquely soft but elaborate instrumentation, which took inspiration from music of Tibet, and Africa, and pre-Columbian America. Some of the music has been described as ethereal, and they've created lots of different sort of soundscapes. Some of them psychedelic, with walls of sound, and others definitely precursors of the sort of contemporary world music movement, as well as new age and ambient. So yeah, they're a really important band that sort of influenced and did stuff around. Fricka himself was like child prodigy on the piano.
Mm.
Apparently, he was pretty hot on the guitar as well, but he just didn't bother. Um, it's like, um, and he sort of had this sort of spiritual and maybe definitely religious, but I'm not sure if it's totally Christian sort of insight before this album. But I think
Mhm.
he then took and pieced various pieces from different religions and different world music and accompanying from it in all of his music moving forwards. So he's a really interesting guy. And they've done loads more albums after this. They they slowed down their output in the sort of 80s and particularly 90s. And then Fricka, he died of a stroke in Munich on the 29th of December 2001. And the group obviously disbanded at that point because he was, the creative powerhouse and the
Sure.
single member that carried on throughout all the changing um, members. But yeah, it's just such an interesting. I was debating which song to give you because it was one of these albums where you really should listen to it as a whole.
Mm.
But it is quite a lot to listen to as a whole, as it were. Um, the first track is just pretty much nearly all piano, and there's parts in it which are just like these cascading notes, and it sounds like rain or icicles snapping off a roof. And
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
pretty and a bit bizarre as well. And then it sort of trundles into Kiri, which is beautiful, and you hear her voice for the first time, and you're just like, wow. But this is the centerpiece, and it does have this sort of little journey. And I think you're right, and you're saying that it does feel like it springs forth hope, whether that be in the form of growth or spring or whatever.
Yeah.
There's something about it. The oboes just sounds beautiful. It really
Yeah.
does. It's the best oboe I think I've ever heard. But yeah, so it's all together. It's a very different kind of music. And it doesn't. When you say krautrock, it really doesn't sound like
Yeah,
krautrock
you
at
said
all.
that, and I don't know if it'll show up on the reaction, like or in the conversation and in the Zoom recording, but I feel like my eyebrow shot up when you said that, or I turned my head a little bit because I wasn't expecting you to describe this as krautrock,
Yeah,
given what
well,
we've
clearly
heard.
isn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
but when they started off and they're synth based, that's what they were. So like similar to like Cluster or other German bands, but they certainly went down a different path. Quite cult, like
Mm.
you won't find this everywhere, but immensely interesting, and it's worth listening to.
Yeah.
In this sort of festive time, I think if people like put this on for a moment of reflection or whatever, then also good.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I'll let you get away with it this time. No, Johnny, that was a good choice. Definitely was. And I can, with the added context, I can make sense of it all in your decision making. So yeah, great shout, man.
It was thin, but I got in there. Right, I should wrap things up. Thanks for listening to this, Andy.
Thank you.
Folks out there, please let us know what you think. If you like this, do hit the like button if you're not already asleep. But yeah, and drop some comments. We'd love to hear from you. I only know a couple of their albums and some of the soundtrack work they've done. So there's probably guys out there who know more. And so please give us some insights or just opinions on this or anything else. Love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, make it your New Year's resolution. 2026, the year of the Audiophiles.
There you go.
Finally get what they deserve. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
Happy holidays, guys.